The sun rises over the Indian Ocean, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold. 37,000 feet below, the island nation of Sri Lanka sits like a jewel in the turquoise waters. At Bandaranaike International Airport in Colombo, the morning departure rush is beginning. Ground crews service aircraft, fuel trucks make their rounds, passengers stream through terminals, dragging luggage, checking phones, buying last-minute snacks before boarding. At Gate 12, Island Airways Flight 4552 is preparing for a short domestic hop to Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport in the southern part of the country. It is a routine flight, barely 40 minutes gate to gate, the kind of milk run that airlines operate multiple times daily. The aircraft is an Airbus A321, well-maintained, fully functional, showing no mechanical issues. 137 passengers board the aircraft. Business travelers heading to meetings in the south, families visiting relatives, tourists beginning beach vacations. They settle into their seats expecting nothing more than a brief, uneventful flight, a quick hop down the coast, coffee and a snack, then touchdown at their destination. In the flight deck, two pilots complete their pre-flight checks. Everything appears normal, professional, routine. The checklists are completed. The route is programmed. The weather is checked. Nothing about this flight suggests anything unusual will occur. But as this aircraft climbs into the morning sky and levels off at cruise altitude, something goes terribly wrong. Not a mechanical failure, not an engine problem, not a systems malfunction. Something far more mundane and yet far more terrifying. Both pilots fall asleep, not one pilot taking a brief rest while the other monitors, not a momentary lapse quickly corrected. But both pilots simultaneously, entering deep sleep while the aircraft flies itself on autopilot. And they remain asleep as the aircraft approaches its destination. They remain asleep as it passes over the airport where they should be landing. They remain asleep as it continues flying, mile after mile out over the ocean, heading toward empty airspace with nothing ahead but thousands of miles of water. Before I continue with this incredible story, if you want to see more real aviation incidents explained from a pilot's perspective, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Trust me, what happens next will leave you speechless. I am Captain Paul Henderson. In 25 years of commercial aviation, I have dealt with countless emergencies and unusual situations. But pilot incapacitation due to sleep is one of the most insidious threats we face because it happens silently, without warning, without drama. One moment you are alert and functioning, the next moment you are gone, your consciousness simply switching off, leaving the aircraft flying itself with no one truly in control. Today I'm going to walk you through every detail of what happened aboard Island Airways Flight 4552, how two professional pilots managed to fall asleep simultaneously, how the aircraft flew far beyond its destination, and how a potential disaster was narrowly averted by the intervention of alert air traffic controllers and pure luck. This is a story about fatigue, about complacency, about the dangers of routine operations, and about how even the most experienced pilots can fall victim to the most basic human need: sleep. Welcome aboard. August 19th, 2022, a Thursday morning, Colombo, Sri Lanka. The temperature is already climbing toward 30 degrees Celsius, humidity thick and oppressive even at 6 in the morning. Bandaranaike International Airport is Sri Lanka's primary aviation gateway, handling both international long-haul flights and domestic short-haul operations. Island Airways is a regional carrier operating primarily domestic routes within Sri Lanka and short international flights to nearby countries. Flight 4552 is one of their scheduled morning departures, leaving Colombo at 7:15 and arriving at Mattala at 7:55. 40 minutes of flying time, 125 nautical miles, a simple, straightforward operation. The crew consists of two pilots. Captain Rajesh Kumar is the pilot in command. He is 46 years old with over 12,000 hours of flight time. He has been flying for Island Airways for 8 years. His record is clean, his performance evaluations consistently satisfactory. He is experienced, competent, reliable. First Officer Sandeep Wickramasinghe occupies the right seat. He is 33 years old with 4,000 hours total time. He has been with Island Airways for 5 years. Like Captain Kumar, his record shows no issues, no incidents, no concerns. Both pilots arrive at the airport at approximately 6 in the morning for their 7:15 departure. They have flown together before. They are familiar with each other's working styles. The relationship is professional, cordial, comfortable. But what neither pilot reveals to the other, what neither man wants to admit even to himself, is that both of them are exhausted. Captain Kumar has been working a particularly demanding schedule over the past 2 weeks. Multiple early morning departures following late evening arrivals. His sleep has been fragmented, irregular, insufficient. He feels tired but tells himself he can manage. Just one more flight, just get through the morning. He can rest later. First Officer Wickramasinghe has his own fatigue issues. He has been dealing with a sick child at home, multiple nights interrupted by crying and fever. He has been getting perhaps 4 or 5 hours of sleep per night for the past week. He also feels exhausted, but he does not want to call in fatigued. It seems weak, it seems unprofessional. Other pilots fly tired all the time. He can handle it. So both men report for duty, neither mentioning their fatigue to the other, neither reporting to the airline that they might not be fit to fly. This is a common pattern in aviation. Pilots are trained to be self-sufficient, to push through discomfort, to complete the mission. Admitting fatigue can feel like admitting failure. They meet in operations, review the flight plan, check the weather. The forecast for the route is excellent. Clear skies, light winds, no turbulence expected. An easy flight. They proceed to the aircraft, conduct their walk-around inspection, board and begin their pre-flight checks. Passengers board at 6:55. Families with small children. Business executives already working on laptops. Elderly couples heading to visit family. They stow their bags, fasten seatbelts, settle in for the short flight. At 7:12, the main cabin door closes. Ground crew disconnect the jet bridge. Captain Kumar receives clearance to push back. The aircraft is pushed back from the gate. Engines start, and they begin taxiing toward the departure runway. Tower clears them for takeoff at 7:17. Kumar advances the thrust levers. The Airbus accelerates down the runway, rotating smoothly at the proper speed. Gear up, flaps up. The aircraft climbs away from Colombo, turning south toward Mattala. The departure is flawless. They follow the published procedure precisely. At 15,000 feet, Colombo Control clears them to climb to their cruising altitude of 37,000 feet. The autopilot is engaged, smoothly guiding the aircraft along the programmed route. By 7:30, they have leveled off at cruise altitude. The morning sun streams through the cockpit windows. Below them, the Sri Lankan coast passes by, green jungle meeting blue ocean. The ride is glass smooth. The engines hum steadily. Every system shows normal indications. This is the phase of flight where pilots can relax slightly. The demanding work of departure is complete. The arrival and approach are still minutes away. The aircraft is functioning perfectly, the autopilot maintaining altitude and route with computer precision. Captain Kumar leans back in his seat. The warmth of the morning sun through the windscreen is pleasant, almost hypnotic. His eyelids feel heavy. He blinks, trying to maintain focus on the instruments. But the fatigue he has been fighting for days is catching up to him. The smooth air, the steady drone of the engines, the warmth of the sun, all of it combines to create the perfect conditions for sleep. His eyes close. Just for a moment, he tells himself. Just a brief rest. The autopilot has everything under control. Beside him, First Officer Wickramasinghe is experiencing the same struggle. He is tired, so incredibly tired. The nights of interrupted sleep have accumulated into a debt his body is demanding to collect. His head nods forward. He jerks it back up, forcing his eyes open. But within seconds, they are closing again. Neither pilot speaks to the other about their fatigue. Neither asks the other to take over temporarily while they rest. Professional pride, or perhaps embarrassment, keeps them silent. And silently, almost simultaneously, both men slip into sleep. The Airbus continues flying itself exactly as programmed. The autopilot maintains altitude. The auto-throttle maintains speed. The flight management computer follows the route, navigating from waypoint to waypoint with perfect precision. From a technical standpoint, the aircraft is performing flawlessly, but there is no one consciously monitoring the systems, no one watching the fuel, no one tracking position, no one listening to the radio. The flight deck has become a ghost ship, flying itself through the sky with 2 unconscious men in the pilot seats. At Mattala Airport, air traffic controllers are expecting Flight 4552 to begin its descent shortly. The flight has been in the air for about 30 minutes. In 10 more minutes, they should be calling for approach clearance. Controllers have the runway ready. Emergency services on standby as standard procedure. Ground crew prepared to service the aircraft after landing. But 7:40 passes. No call from Flight 4552. Controllers are not immediately concerned. Sometimes pilots are busy with checklists or coordinating with company dispatch. They wait a few more minutes. 7:45. Still no call. Now controllers are starting to wonder. They key their microphone. Island Airways 4552 Mattala approach. Descend and maintain flight level 150 for the approach. Silence. They try again. Island Airways 4552 Mattala approach. Radio check. How do you read? Still nothing. On their radar screens they can see the aircraft. It is now directly over Mattala Airport, but it is not descending. It is maintaining 37,000 feet, flying straight and level, continuing south. Controllers watch with growing alarm as the aircraft passes over the airport and keeps going. Island Airways 4552, Mattala approach. You have overflown the airport. Confirm your intentions. No response. The controllers look at each other. Something is very wrong. Aircraft do not simply ignore radio calls and fly past their destinations. They contact Colombo Control, informing them of the situation. They try contacting the aircraft on emergency frequencies. They ask other aircraft in the area to attempt contact on air-to-air frequencies. Nothing works. Flight 4552 continues flying south, now over the Indian Ocean, heading toward empty airspace with nothing ahead but water stretching to Antarctica. In the flight deck, both pilots remain deeply asleep. Captain Kumar is slumped in his seat, head tilted back, mouth slightly open. First Officer Vikramasinghe is hunched forward, forehead nearly touching the glare shield above the instrument panel. Neither stirs. The cockpit is silent except for the steady hum of air conditioning and the occasional automated call-out from the aircraft systems. The Airbus flies on, following its programmed route precisely. It reaches the final waypoint in the flight plan, the point where it should have begun its descent into Mattala. But with no pilot input to initiate the descent, it simply continues flying straight and level, heading south over open ocean. At Colombo Control, the situation has escalated to emergency status. Controllers have now been attempting to contact Flight 4552 for over 15 minutes with no success. The aircraft has overflown its destination by more than 100 kilometers and is continuing to fly away from land. They have no idea what is happening in that cockpit. Medical emergency? Pressurization failure leaving the pilots unconscious? Hijacking? They consider scrambling military jets to intercept and attempt visual contact, but the Sri Lankan Air Force does not maintain fighters on constant alert status. It would take time to launch aircraft, and meanwhile, Flight 4552 is getting farther from land with every passing minute. Island Airways Operations Center is contacted. They attempt to reach the aircraft via data link messaging systems. They send multiple text messages to the cockpit display. In the flight deck, the messages arrive causing a soft chime and a visual indication on the screen, but both pilots are too deeply asleep to notice. If you are finding this story as unbelievable as I did when I first investigated it, go ahead and smash that like button right now. And do not go anywhere, because what happens next is even more shocking. Also, share this video with anyone who thinks flying is boring, because trust me, they need to hear this story. 70 minutes after departure, the aircraft has now flown approximately 250 kilometers beyond Mattala. It has been out of radio contact for over 30 minutes. Fuel is becoming a concern. The flight was planned with enough fuel for the 40-minute flight to Mattala, plus required reserves. If the aircraft continues flying south, it will eventually exhaust its fuel and crash into the ocean. And then, finally, something changes. Inside the cockpit, an alarm sounds. Not a subtle chime, not a gentle reminder, but a loud, insistent warning tone. The cabin altitude warning. For some reason, possibly due to a minor pressurization irregularity, the cabin altitude has climbed slightly above its normal level, triggering an automated alert. The sound penetrates the consciousness of First Officer Vikramasinghe. His eyes flutter open. For a moment he is disoriented, unsure where he is or what is happening. Then awareness floods back. He is in an aircraft, in flight. He looks at the instruments. Altitude normal, airspeed normal, but something is wrong. They should be on the ground by now. How long has he been asleep? He looks over at Captain Kumar, who is still unconscious, head back, completely unresponsive. Vikramasinghe reaches over and shakes his shoulder. "Captain, "Captain, wake up!" Kumar stirs slowly, groggily. His eyes open halfway. "What?" "We overflew Mattala," Wickramasinghe says, his voice rising with panic. "We're way past the airport, way past." Kumar's brain struggles to process this information. He looks at the navigation display. The aircraft is far south of where it should be, out over the ocean. He checks the time. They have been airborne for over 70 minutes. They should have landed half an hour ago. "Oh my God," Kumar says, now fully awake, adrenaline flooding his system. Wickramasinghe is already on the radio. "Colombo Control, Island Airways 4552. The response is immediate. The controller's voice tight with controlled urgency. "Island Airways 4552, Colombo Control. Confirm you are responding. State your situation." "Colombo 4552, we overslept," Wickramasinghe says, the words sounding absurd even as he speaks them. "Both pilots fell asleep. Request immediate vectors back to Mattala." There is a pause on the radio. The controller is probably processing what he just heard. "Both pilots fell asleep? How is that even possible?" "Island Airways 4552, Roger. Turn left heading 360 immediately. Descend and maintain flight level 250. You are approximately 250 kilometers south of Mattala." Kumar takes control of the aircraft, disengaging the autopilot and manually banking left, turning the aircraft back toward land. His hands are shaking. His heart is pounding. The full weight of what just happened is crashing down on him. They fell asleep, both of them. They could have flown until they ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. 137 passengers and crew could have died. The flight back to Mattala takes nearly 30 minutes. Controllers guide them with constant updates, keeping close watch on their progress. Other traffic is cleared out of their path. Emergency services at Mattala are placed on full alert. In the cabin, passengers are confused and concerned. They know something unusual is happening. The flight has taken far longer than scheduled. They are well over an hour past their expected arrival time. Flight attendants do their best to remain calm and reassuring, but they also do not know the full story of what occurred. At 8:47, nearly 1 hour and 30 minutes after they should have landed, Flight 4552 finally touches down on the runway at Mattala. The landing is smooth, professional. Kumar brings the aircraft to a stop, sets the parking brake, and shuts down the engines. For a moment, both pilots sit in silence, the enormity of their error settling over them like a weight. Then Kumar picks up the interphone and calls the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain. On behalf of myself and my first officer, I apologize for the extended flight time. We will be docking at the gate momentarily. Thank you for your patience." It is an absurdly inadequate explanation for what just happened, but he cannot tell passengers the truth. Not yet. That will come later when the investigation begins. Passengers deplane, relieved to finally be on the ground, but confused about the delay. Many complain to gate agents, demanding explanations. The airline offers vague statements about operational issues, but the truth cannot be hidden for long. Air traffic control has recorded everything: the radio transmissions, the extended flight time, the admission that both pilots fell asleep. Island Airways has no choice but to ground the crew pending investigation and notify aviation authorities. The investigation that follows is swift and thorough. The Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka launches a formal inquiry. The aircraft's flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder are downloaded and analyzed. The audio is damning. It captures the sound of both pilots' breathing becoming slow and regular, the characteristic pattern of sleep. It captures long periods of silence with no crew communication. It captures the alarm that finally woke them, their panicked realization of what had happened. Both pilots are interviewed extensively. They are required to provide detailed accounts of their activities in the days leading up to the flight. Sleep logs are reviewed. Scheduling patterns are examined. Medical evaluations are conducted to rule out sleep disorders or other health issues. The findings are clear. Both pilots were suffering from acute fatigue due to inadequate rest. Captain Kumar had been working an excessive schedule with insufficient recovery time between duty periods. First Officer Wickramasinghe had been dealing with sleep deprivation due to his child's illness, but had failed to report himself unfit for duty. The airline's scheduling practices are scrutinized. While technically in compliance with regulations regarding duty time and rest periods, the schedule had not accounted for the cumulative effects of multiple early morning departures. The regulations focus on hours, not on sleep quality or circadian disruption. Both pilots have their licenses suspended pending completion of fatigue management training and psychological evaluation. Island Airways is fined by the Aviation Authority and required to implement enhanced fatigue risk management systems. For me, reviewing this case, what strikes me most is how preventable it was. Both pilots knew they were tired. Both recognized on some level that they were not at their best, but neither felt comfortable admitting it to their colleagues or to themselves. This is a cultural problem in aviation. We train pilots to be strong, capable, resilient. We emphasize the importance of completing the mission, getting the job done, not letting anyone down. And inadvertently, we create an environment where admitting fatigue feels like admitting weakness. But fatigue is not a character flaw. It is a physiological state. Human beings need sleep. When we do not get enough sleep, our cognitive function degrades. Our reaction times slow. Our judgment becomes impaired. And eventually, if fatigue is severe enough, our bodies simply shut down, forcing us into sleep regardless of our circumstances. The scary thing about this case is that it happened on a short domestic flight, in good weather, with no mechanical problems. Everything was routine, everything was easy, and that very ease, that lack of challenge, created the perfect conditions for sleep. If there had been turbulence, if there had been complicated weather to navigate, if there had been any task demanding active attention, the pilots likely would have remained awake. But with the autopilot handling everything, with nothing requiring their input, their fatigued brains simply switched off. Fortunately, this incident did not end in disaster. The aircraft did not run out of fuel. It did not crash into the ocean. The alarm system woke the pilots in time. Air traffic controllers were alert and ready to assist. Pure luck played a role as well. A few more minutes of sleep and the situation could have become unrecoverable. Since this incident, Island Airways has implemented several changes. Pilots are now required to complete fatigue risk assessment forms before every flight. If they report high fatigue levels, they are removed from duty without penalty. The airline has hired additional pilots to provide more scheduling flexibility and reduce the pressure on individuals to fly when tired. The Civil Aviation Authority has also updated regulations, requiring all airlines to implement formal fatigue risk management systems that go beyond simple duty time limitations. Airlines must now track patterns, monitor cumulative fatigue, and provide pilots with tools and training to recognize and report fatigue. But regulations and systems can only do so much. Ultimately, safety depends on individual pilots making responsible decisions. If you are too tired to fly, you must speak up. Your career is not worth risking lives. Your pride is not worth endangering passengers. Fatigue is real, it is dangerous, and it can kill. To any pilot reading this, if you are tired, say so. Call in fatigued. Take the day off. Let the airline find a replacement. Yes, it may cause inconvenience. Yes, it may cause delays. But it is far better to delay a flight than to crash an aircraft. And to passengers, understand that sometimes when a flight is delayed because a crew member calls in sick or fatigued, that is the system working correctly. That is a professional making a responsible decision to protect your safety. It is frustrating, but it is necessary. Flight 4552 serves as a stark reminder that fatigue is one of aviation's most insidious threats. It does not announce itself with warning lights or alarm bells. It creeps up gradually, degrading performance before you even realize it is happening. And if left unchecked, it can turn a routine flight into a potential disaster. If this story opened your eyes to the hidden dangers of aviation fatigue, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now so you do not miss future episodes. Give this video a like if you learned something new today. And please, share this with anyone who is interested in aviation or who has ever wondered what really goes on behind the cockpit door. Your support helps me continue bringing you these real stories from inside the aviation world. I am Captain Paul Henderson. Thank you for staying with me through this story. Remember that safety in aviation requires constant vigilance, honest self-assessment, and the courage to speak up when something is not right. Fatigue is real. Fatigue is dangerous. And no flight is so important that it is worth risking lives. Fly safe, get enough rest, and never be afraid to admit when you are too tired to fly. Until next time, this is Captain Paul Henderson signing off.